Do you think Mrs. Parker Bowles was a factor in the breakdown of your marriage?
Well, there were three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
What if the royal love story we thought we knew was hiding dark secrets? A shocking discovery has surfaced. Queen Camilla's private diary, rumored to contain explosive details about King Charles. From secret scandals to untold truths about their controversial romance. This diary could change everything we know about the British monarchy. What terrifying revelations could it hold?
Did you find it harrowing?
I did find it, and I think what made it so readable was your writing, your prose, your descriptions of nature.
Buckle up, because this royal drama is about to get even more scandalous. Stay tuned for the jaw-dropping details. Charles and Camilla first meet, 1970. It was the summer of 1970 when Prince Charles, the future King of England, met Camilla Shand for the very first time. The encounter happened at a polo match in Windsor Great Park, a setting that couldn't have been more fitting for a royal romance to begin. The air was filled with excitement, horses galloping, and laughter echoing across the field. Among the crowd stood Camilla, a confident and witty young woman who would soon capture the attention of the young prince. As the story goes, their meeting wasn't just casual, it was electric. Charles was immediately drawn to Camilla's charm and humor. Unlike many others in royal circles, Camilla didn't treat Charles as just a prince. She spoke to him like a regular person, and her down-to-earth personality made her stand out. She reportedly broke the ice with a cheeky joke that caught Charles off guard. Camilla reminded him that their great-grandmothers had both been mistresses to the same king. Her boldness left Charles both amused and intrigued, and the two hit it off instantly. Camilla, who was 23 at the time, wasn't from a royal family, but she came from an aristocratic background. She'd grown up around horses, countryside parties, and the kind of life that made her comfortable in the royal world. Charles, on the other hand, was just starting to step into his role as the Prince of Wales, balancing the weight of royal duties with his personal desires. Meeting Camilla felt like a breath of fresh air for him. Over the next few months, Charles and Camilla spent more time together, and their relationship began to blossom. They shared a love for the countryside, polo, and good conversation. Camilla had a way of making Charles feel at ease, something he deeply valued as the pressures of royal life surrounded him. Friends of the couple at the time said their chemistry was undeniable, but their love story hit its first obstacle not long after it began. Charles's royal duties called him away to serve in the Royal Navy, and their relationship was put on hold. While Charles was away, Camilla rekindled her romance with Andrew Parker Bowles, whom she would later marry. Though their love story didn't take off at the time, that first meeting in 1970 set the stage for decades of connection, heartbreak, and eventual reconciliation. It was the beginning of a royal relationship that would go on to shape history. Camilla marries Andrew Parker Bowles, 1973. The year was 1973, and the British social scene was buzzing with excitement. Camilla Shand, a young woman with a sharp wit and a warm personality, was set to marry Andrew Parker Bowles, a handsome and charming officer in the British Army. Their wedding was the talk of the town, and it became one of the most glamorous social events of the year. But behind the smiles and celebration, there was an untold story of love, heartbreak, and what might have been. Camilla and Andrew had been in an on-again, off-again relationship for several years. Andrew, who was known for his good looks and charisma, had many admirers, and their relationship wasn't always smooth. Despite the ups and downs, Camilla seemed deeply taken with him. She was ready to settle down and start a family, and Andrew appeared to be the perfect match for her. However, what many didn't know at the time was that another man, Prince Charles, had already captured Camilla's heart just a few years earlier. Prince Charles and Camilla had met in 1970, and their connection was undeniable. They shared a bond that was rare and unique, but timing was not on their side. Charles's royal duties required him to join the Royal Navy, which meant he had to leave Camilla behind. In his absence, Camilla rekindled her romance with Andrew, and their relationship grew stronger. When Charles returned, it was too late. Camilla and Andrew's engagement had already been announced. On July 4, 1973, Camilla and Andrew tied the knot in a grand ceremony at the Guards' Chapel in London. The wedding was attended by high society, including members of the royal family. Camilla looked radiant in her white dress, smiling as she walked down the aisle. From the outside, it seemed like a perfect fairy tale. However, those close to Camilla knew that Charles was never far from her thoughts. Despite marrying Andrew, Camilla and Charles remained friends. They stayed in touch, and their bond remained strong even as they built separate lives. Camilla and Andrew went on to have 2 children, Tom and Laura, but their marriage was far from perfect. Charles and Camilla's affair resumes. The story of Prince Charles and Camilla Shand had always been complicated, but by the mid-1980s it took an explosive turn. Although Camilla had married Andrew Parker Bowles in 1973, and Charles had tied the knot with Lady Diana Spencer in 1981, the connection between Charles and Camilla never truly disappeared. Behind the grand royal events and public appearances, their bond remained strong, and by 1986, their affair had quietly resumed. At this point, Charles and Diana's marriage was already struggling. What had started as a fairy tale union was now filled with tension, misunderstandings, and unhappiness. Diana was aware of Charles's lingering feelings for Camilla, which only added to the cracks in their relationship. Charles, feeling increasingly distant from Diana, found comfort in the arms of the woman he had always turned to, Camilla. Their rekindled affair wasn't something that happened overnight. It began subtly, with Charles and Camilla spending more time together at social events and private gatherings. Camilla, who was still married to Andrew Parker Bowles, was a source of emotional support for Charles. She understood the pressures of his royal life in a way that Diana, still young and inexperienced at the time, struggled to grasp. For Charles, Camilla was more than just an old flame. She was a confidant, a friend, and someone he could rely on. As their relationship deepened, rumors of their affair began to spread. Friends and aides close to the couple noticed their growing closeness, and whispers about their meetings started to reach the public. Diana herself confronted Charles about his relationship with Camilla. The affair caused a ripple effect of pain and scandal. Diana's emotional struggles became more apparent, and her marriage to Charles continued to unravel. Meanwhile, Camilla faced her own challenges, as her relationship with Andrew Parker Bowles also began to break down. By the early 1990s, the affair was no longer a secret, and the media frenzy surrounding it became relentless. Looking back, the resumption of Charles and Camilla's affair in 1986 marked a turning point in the history of the British monarchy. It not only led to the eventual collapse of 2 marriages, but it also set the stage for decades of public and private drama. Their love, though controversial, would later endure and reshape the royal family in ways no one could have imagined. Charles marries Diana, 1981. It was July 29, 1981, when the world witnessed what seemed like the perfect fairy tale. Prince Charles, heir to the British throne, married Lady Diana Spencer in a grand ceremony that captured the hearts of millions. With over 750 million people watching on television worldwide, it was called the Wedding of the Century. The union between the shy 20-year-old Diana and the 32-year-old prince appeared magical. But beneath the surface, the story was far more complicated. The wedding itself was nothing short of spectacular. St. Paul's Cathedral, chosen for its larger capacity compared to Westminster Abbey, was packed with royals, dignitaries, and celebrities. Diana arrived in a glass carriage, wearing a stunning ivory silk gown with a 25-foot train, designed by David and Elizabeth Emanuel. The sight of her stepping out of the carriage became one of the most iconic images in royal history. The young bride looked every bit the princess she was about to become, and the crowd erupted in cheers as she made her way down the aisle. Charles, dressed in his naval uniform, waited at the altar, appearing calm and composed. The couple exchanged vows, though there were small, telling signs of nerves. Diana famously mixed up Charles's name during the ceremony, calling him Philip Charles Arthur George, instead of Charles Philip Arthur George. It was a minor mistake, but it hinted at the underlying stress of the day. From the outside, everything seemed perfect. The streets of London were lined with thousands of well-wishers waving flags, and the reception was a grand affair. The couple's kiss on the balcony of Buckingham Palace became a defining moment, replayed countless times in the media, Diana, with her natural charm and beauty, quickly won over the public, earning her title as the People's Princess. However, while the world celebrated, the marriage itself was built on shaky ground. Charles and Diana had only met 12 times before getting engaged. Their relationship lacked a deep emotional connection, and Charles's lingering feelings for his former flame, Camilla Parker Bowles, cast a shadow over their union. Diana, though smitten with Charles, would later reveal how lonely and isolated she felt. Diana confronts Camilla about the affair. By the late 1980s, Princess Diana could no longer ignore the growing distance between her and Prince Charles. Whispers of an ongoing secret between Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles had turned into louder rumors. Though Diana had always sensed that Charles's heart belonged to someone else, she decided to face the situation head-on. In 1989, she gathered the courage to confront Camilla at a birthday party, an event that would become legendary in royal history. Many well-known figures had gathered for a celebration in London, unaware that the evening would take a dramatic turn. The party was held for Camilla's sister, but the happy occasion had a tense undertone. Diana, feeling increasingly isolated and hurt, chose this moment to speak directly to the woman she believed was threatening her marriage. It was a small gathering, which made it easier for Diana to corner Camilla in a quiet corner, away from the main party. Diana approached Camilla with determination, her heart pounding. Despite her nerves, she spoke calmly, but firmly. She famously said, "I know what's going on. Don't treat me like I'm stupid." People who later heard about this confrontation often wondered how Camilla reacted to being challenged by the Princess of Wales. According to Diana's own accounts, Camilla tried to maintain her composure, but the tension in the air was undeniable. The conversation that followed was brief but powerful. Diana made it clear she wanted no secrets in her marriage, and that she deserved honesty from both Charles and Camilla. In some reports, Camilla replied that Diana had everything she could want: fame, beauty, and 2 beautiful sons. Diana, however, saw these words as dismissive and hurtful, feeling that Camilla was undermining her emotional needs. This confrontation was a key moment in Diana's life. Though she didn't end the affair that very night, she took a brave step by standing up for herself and her children. The media would later learn of this face-to-face meeting, adding more fuel to the already intense coverage of the royal marriage. For Diana, it was a moment of releasing pent-up anger and sadness. In the years that followed, the tension between Diana, Charles, and Camilla grew stronger, eventually leading to tabloid headlines around the world. Yet, this single evening at a birthday party remained a turning point. Diana's confrontation showed her willingness to fight for her dignity, even if it meant challenging the very traditions and expectations that had long defined royal life. Charles and Diana live separate lives, 1986. Charles and Diana's marriage started like a fairy tale, but by 1986, the cracks were impossible to ignore. Instead of sharing a warm and loving bond, the Prince and Princess of Wales seemed more like strangers under the same roof. Friends, staff, and even the public noticed that the couple was drifting apart. The magic of their 1981 wedding was gone, replaced by long periods of living separate lives both in and out of the palace. At the time, Diana was a global icon. Her warmth and compassion shone during royal events, charity visits, and public engagements. People adored her for her natural charm and stylish outfits. However, behind the scenes, she felt lonely and misunderstood. Charles, meanwhile, continued his royal duties and focused on his private interests, like polo and gardening. He spent more time in the countryside, enjoying peaceful retreats and the company of close friends. Their busy schedules offered an easy cover for how little time they actually spent together. Though both tried to keep up appearances for the sake of tradition and their roles, tensions were growing. Rumors about Diana's unhappiness and Charles's connection with Camilla Parker Bowles only added more strain. Diana's heartfelt attempts to find emotional support from Charles often went unanswered, and Charles, feeling pressured by royal expectations, withdrew even further. As a result, the two formed separate routines, rarely sharing intimate moments or genuine conversations. Even at public events, keen observers could sense the distance between them. Photographers captured moments when Diana stood a few steps away, looking isolated, while Charles appeared engaged with others. Their differing interests became more obvious. Diana preferred spending time with her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, and focusing on charitable work. Charles found solace in quiet hobbies and deep conversations that did not always include Diana. By the end of 1986, it was clear to insiders that the royal couple had practically become roommates, not partners. They lived their daily lives in different parts of palaces, rarely meeting except for official events or planned family moments. Despite efforts by the royal family to deny any serious marital problems, rumors circulated across newspapers and magazines, intensifying the pressure on both Charles and Diana. Diana's Panorama Interview, 1995. Diana's Panorama Interview, 1995, was a moment that caught the world by surprise and changed the way people viewed the royal family. It aired on November 20th, 1995, on the BBC program Panorama, hosted by journalist Martin Bashir. Millions of people tuned in to watch Princess Diana speak openly about her life, her marriage to Prince Charles, and the pressures of being in the public eye. This was the first time a member of the royal family had given such a frank and personal interview on national television. From the beginning, Diana showed a calm and gentle manner, even though the topics were deeply personal. She spoke about feeling isolated and misunderstood within the royal household. She also confessed to struggling with bulimia, a condition she linked to the stress and emotional pain she felt. Diana's openness on these private matters showed her willingness to connect with ordinary people who faced similar struggles. Perhaps the most remembered part of the interview was Diana's honest talk about her marriage problems. At one point, she famously said, "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded," referring to Prince Charles's long-running connection with Camilla Parker Bowles. This direct statement seemed to confirm the rumors about Charles and Camilla's affair. Hearing Diana speak these words on national television shocked the audience and the royal establishment. During the interview, Diana also talked about her role in the royal family, suggesting that they saw her as a threat rather than an ally. She described feeling unsupported by palace staff and felt that her accomplishments were overshadowed by royal protocol. Diana expressed that she wanted to be a queen in people's hearts, suggesting that she cared more about helping others than about official titles and positions. The public reaction to Diana's Panorama interview was huge. People felt both sympathy and admiration for her honesty. Many applauded Diana for daring to speak about private matters, while others criticized the BBC for giving her such a platform to reveal the inner workings of the royal family. For the royal household, the interview was a crisis that raised questions about how to handle such a frank admission of marital issues and personal pain. In the days and weeks after the interview, tensions grew within the monarchy, and discussions about Diana and Charles's future intensified. By the following year, the two finalized their divorce. Diana's Panorama interview remains a defining moment in modern royal history, a rare instance when a royal figure chose to break tradition and directly tell the world her side of the story. Diana's tragic death. In the early hours of August 31st, 1997, the world lost a beloved figure, Diana, Princess of Wales. She was just 36 years old. That night, Diana was in Paris with her companion, Dodi Fayed. They were traveling in a Mercedes-Benz limousine when their driver, Henri Paul, sped through the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, attempting to escape pursuing paparazzi. Inside the car were Diana, Dodi, Henri, and bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones. Suddenly, the car lost control and crashed into a pillar inside the tunnel. Dodi Fayed and Henri Paul died at the scene. Diana was rushed to the Pitié-Salpêtrière hospital, where doctors worked tirelessly to save her. Tragically, she succumbed to her injuries a few hours later. Only Trevor Rees-Jones survived, though he was badly hurt. Initial police reports revealed that Henri Paul had high levels of alcohol in his blood. The paparazzi on motorbikes had been chasing the car, hoping to get photos, and were quickly blamed by the public for their role in the tragedy. When the news of Diana's death reached the public, shock and grief spread around the globe. People could not believe that the people's princess, known for her warmth and compassion, was gone. Crowds began to gather outside Kensington Palace in London, leaving piles of flowers, letters, and gifts as tributes. Newspapers worldwide carried headlines of disbelief and sorrow. In the days leading up to her funeral, the nation found itself overcome with mourning. On September 6, 1997, Diana's funeral took place at Westminster Abbey. A solemn procession guided her coffin through the streets of London, with her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, walking behind. Seeing the two young princes following their mother's coffin brought many to tears. Crowds lined the route, and millions more watched the proceedings on television. Elton John performed a moving rendition of Candle in the Wind, which he had reworked to honor Diana. Diana's death sparked new discussions about the heightened role of the media and paparazzi in the lives of public figures. Many felt that the relentless pursuit for tabloid photos had gone too far. At the same time, people praised Diana's charitable work and genuine kindness. In the months and years that followed, her legacy inspired changes in how the royal family engaged with the public, and how the press approached the private lives of famous individuals. Charles and Camilla marry, 2005. In April 2005, after decades of ups and downs, Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles finally made their love official. The couple's relationship had been in the spotlight for many years, stirring controversy and debate across the United Kingdom. However, their bond had proven too strong to be broken by public scandals, royal expectations, or even the tragic death of Princess Diana. When the announcement of their engagement came, many people were surprised, but also curious about how exactly the royal wedding would unfold for a couple with such a long history. The wedding was initially set to take place on April 8, 2005, at Windsor Castle, but had to be postponed by one day, so Prince Charles could attend Pope John Paul II's funeral in Rome. On April 9th, the couple held a civil ceremony at Windsor Guildhall, followed by a blessing at St. George's Chapel. Queen Elizabeth II did not attend the civil ceremony, but she joined the family for the blessing and later hosted a reception. The mood was joyful yet modest, reflecting their desire for a subdued celebration. Despite the years of public scrutiny, many people were happy to see Charles and Camilla finally wed. Their mutual affection was clear, and the simpler wedding format highlighted their wish for a more private celebration. Camilla took the title of Duchess of Cornwall instead of Princess of Wales, a decision made out of respect for Diana's memory and the public's lingering feelings. Though some critics remained skeptical, the couple's union gained acceptance over time as they took on more royal duties together. In the months and years following their marriage, Charles and Camilla continued to shape their public roles. They supported various charities, traveled for state visits, and appeared together at cultural and social events. While Charles focused on environmental issues and youth programs, Camilla championed literacy, women's rights, and the well-being of animals. Over time, their team approach began to soften public opinion, and an increasing number of people saw Camilla less as an interloper and more as a loyal partner to the future king. For Charles, the marriage marked a new chapter in his personal life, fulfilling a desire delayed by past controversies. When Queen Elizabeth II eventually gave her approval, it signaled that even the strict royal tradition could adapt to modern changes. As the Duchess of Cornwall, Camilla showed her dedication to her new royal duties, engaging with the public and supporting causes dear to her and Charles. Their wedding stood as proof that love can endure, even after years of challenges and heartbreak. Modern status of Camilla and Charles. Charles and Camilla's relationship has transformed significantly over the years. From a scandal that shook the royal family to their eventual marriage in 2005, they have now become a steady presence at the heart of the monarchy. With Charles ascending to the throne as King Charles III after the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, Camilla holds the title of Queen, signaling a remarkable shift from her earlier public image as the Duchess of Cornwall. Their story is one of both personal and royal evolution, marked by changing public attitudes and growing acceptance. Today, Charles and Camilla focus on their royal duties, while also showing a more relaxed and approachable side. King Charles, known for his passion for environmental issues, continues to champion causes such as climate change, sustainable farming, and the protection of wildlife. Camilla, meanwhile, has become a strong advocate for literacy programs and charities focusing on domestic violence and osteoporosis awareness. People are seeing her as a supportive and hardworking royal figure, quite different from the controversial figure she once was in the media. An important part of their modern status involves their public appearances, which display a respectful and warm partnership. They are often seen together at official functions, greeting diplomats, meeting with local leaders, and engaging with charity representatives. Both are comfortable with each other's presence, and their relaxed interactions hint at a deep understanding built over many years. This contrasts with the formal and sometimes distant image royals have had in the past, reflecting the more open and modern style they bring to the crown. As king and queen, Charles and Camilla's approach to leadership within the royal family highlights the values they hold dear. Charles remains focused on maintaining the monarchy's relevance in a rapidly changing world, while Camilla uses her platform to shine a light on everyday issues people face. They support each other's projects, attend joint events, and often speak with genuine interest to those they meet, helping to humanize the royal institution. Public opinion of the couple has gradually softened, especially compared to the intense criticism they faced years ago. While some still remember the past controversies, many have come to respect Charles's lifelong commitment to public service and Camilla's dedication to charitable work. Their marriage is viewed less as a royal scandal and more as a story of two people who eventually found acceptance and happiness together. For centuries, the British monarchy has stood as a pillar of continuity, heritage, and a sense of collective identity. Its traditions have been woven into the fabric of the nation, offering a reminder of time-honored ceremonies, elaborate protocols, and the enduring institution of royalty. Yet, every so often, an event arises that shakes the venerable pillars of this royal edifice, leaving both public observers and royal insiders in a state of collective astonishment. In one such extraordinary turn of events, King Charles has chosen to step away from his royal title. This decision, seemingly born of a convergence of private convictions and public pressures, has ignited heated debates and intense curiosity across the globe. How did King Charles arrive at this watershed moment? What dynamics led him to relinquish the station he once seemed destined to uphold? And what does the future hold for a monarchy that has been forced to confront the realities of modern life in a way it rarely has? The first reactions to King Charles's decision were, predictably, a cocktail of disbelief and fervor. Royal watchers, the media, and the public at large struggled to reconcile the image of Charles as the face of established ceremony with a new vision of him stepping away from a role that has defined him for so many years. Some wondered if his choice was motivated by personal longing, a desire to forge a life unencumbered by ceremonial trappings, while others speculated that this step was part of a broader realignment within the monarchy itself, signaling that even the grandest institutions are not immune to the imperatives of changing times. All at once, questions flooded every corner of public discourse. Was this an attempt on King Charles's part to modernize the monarchy from within, or was it evidence of private struggles made public? Could it be a bid to protect his own mental or emotional well-being, or a response to the friction created by competing visions within the royal family? These layers of speculation did little to quell the public's thirst for clarity. Official statements were spare in detail, providing enough information to confirm the essential facts, but leaving ample space for rumors to flourish. Royal correspondents swarmed to glean any hint of hidden motives, turning an already complicated situation into a maze of theories, counter-theories, and endless commentary. For the British monarchy, an institution built on continuity and respect for established protocols, such widespread public questioning was unsettling, to say the least. Monarchs are typically paragons of steadiness, their decisions reflecting slow and deliberate changes rather than abrupt shifts. But King Charles's choice felt strikingly different. Indeed, the monarchy had seldom seen a development so abrupt since the era of the abdication crisis in the early 20th century. What lay behind this monumental decision? To answer that question, one has to consider the remarkable path King Charles traveled before this moment. Born into a life of inherited responsibilities, Charles spent much of his existence knowing he stood in the direct line of succession, bound to the future role of reigning over the country. From his earliest days, the weight of public expectation hovered, guiding his education, shaping his experiences, and dictating the trajectory of his personal life. Though he had passions, environmental causes, organic farming, charitable ventures, those pursuits were often cast in the light of his impending destiny as monarch. When he finally ascended to the throne, it felt like the culmination of everything his life had prepared him for. Yet, as with all human stories, the linear path from heir to sovereign was accompanied by complications. Critics sometimes labeled him overly traditional, while paradoxically, some contended he was too outspoken on modern topics such as architecture or climate change. The public's perception swung between viewing him as a figure well-equipped to guide a venerable institution into the contemporary era, or an out-of-touch royal uncertain of how to connect with an increasingly diverse and skeptical public. His personal relationships became fodder for endless tabloid speculation, adding an extra burden to the already colossal responsibilities that come with wearing a crown. Against this backdrop, King Charles's recent decision to relinquish his title seems less abrupt than it might appear on the surface. He had long walked a tightrope between honoring ancient customs and wrestling with the need to adapt the monarchy to modern values. Perhaps the tension of that balancing act eventually pushed him to make an extraordinary choice, to carve out a role not entirely dictated by protocol, but by personal conviction and an evolving sense of responsibility. For outsiders, the significance of losing the kingly title is immense. Traditionally, a monarch's position is sacrosanct, conferred at the coronation and regarded as a lifetime station. That Charles would choose to renounce or step aside from it, even in part, raised urgent questions about how the monarchy would recalibrate, how it could maintain its aura of continuity and stability once its central figure decided to leave that role behind. Public reaction to King Charles's move illuminated a growing divide in how people view royalty in the 21st century. Some segments of the public, particularly those with a deep attachment to ceremonial monarchy, viewed his decision as a betrayal of ancient customs. They argued that monarchy by nature is a lifetime commitment, an unspoken contract that links the sovereign to the people. Others, however, saw in Charles a figure of modern leadership courage, someone willing to admit that old forms must give way if the institution is to endure. To them, letting go of the burdens of kingship signaled adaptability rather than abandonment, suggesting that the monarchy might yet shift its focus away from pageantry and toward more tangible forms of service and connection with contemporary society. In many respects, the monarchy found itself at a crossroads, confronted by a stark existential question. Could an institution that has thrived for centuries on ceremonial continuity reshape itself substantially enough to remain relevant, especially when its reigning figure has stepped away from the formal symbols of kingship? The monarchy is historically resistant to dramatic change, preferring incremental evolution over radical transformation. However, King Charles's decision thrust it into uncharted territory. Royal advisors and family members scrambled to manage the fallout, balancing a desire to respect Charles's personal autonomy with the need to preserve the monarchy's unifying function. Everyone recognized that the significance of Charles's choice would reverberate far beyond palace walls. The emotional dimensions of Charles's action were no less compelling. For decades, he bore the title of Prince of Wales, then ascended to become king, a station that placed him at the summit of royal responsibility. The public often glimpsed the formalities, his participation in solemn ceremonies, his speeches addressing national causes, his presence at key events. Few, however, witnessed the personal toll of such constant scrutiny. The monarchy thrives on visibility. Every gesture, every word, every choice of attire can become a talking point. For a man of introspective bent, who once showed genuine fervor for quiet pursuits like reading philosophy or planting trees, the day-to-day demands of monarchy were draining on both emotional and intellectual levels. Stepping back might have been an attempt to reclaim a piece of his own identity, an identity that had remained subsumed by ceremony for much of his life. Observers also note that King Charles's choice may have been deeply influenced by the example of others within the family and beyond. Modern royals like William and Catherine have already shown a flair for embracing new forms of outreach, social media, and more casual public encounters, arguably broadening the monarchy's appeal. Might Charles have felt overshadowed by the ease with which the younger generation navigates the digital age, or possibly inspired by the notion that monarchy can be flexible? Moreover, one can't discount the impact of global conversations about mental health, personal fulfillment, and the challenges posed by relentless public gaze. Charles might have wanted to set a precedent, that it's permissible even for royalty to choose personal well-being over unyielding tradition. Speculations aside, the immediate ripple effects were profound. First and foremost, the monarchy's protocols had to be re-examined. If Charles is no longer king in the formal sense, who stands at the helm of the institution? Is the heir presumptive automatically installed, or does a caretaker figure step in, pending formalities? The line of succession is ordinarily a rigid sequence, but Charles's voluntary relinquishment tested that rigidity. Was his departure final or partial, and what does it mean for the global network of Commonwealth realms that once recognized him as their sovereign? These details needed to be clarified promptly to forestall any constitutional vacuum or public confusion. Then there was the challenge of reorganizing official duties. Ceremonial functions, such as the state opening of Parliament, trooping the color, and the distribution of honors, typically center on the reigning monarch. If King Charles was retreating from the front and relinquishing the symbolic scepter, who would assume these duties? Would the monarchy parcel out responsibilities among multiple senior members, or designate a single figure to represent the crown? Each possibility carried its own consequences for power dynamics within the family. Some family members might welcome the chance to have a more prominent role, while others might feel overwhelmed by the additional obligations. One cannot overlook the emotional and political ramifications for those nearest and dearest to Charles. Figures like Queen Camilla, often seen as his staunchest ally, faced the delicate task of supporting his personal decision, while also honoring the monarchy's collective needs. Rose Hanbury's name has long held a special resonance in British aristocratic circles, her life seemingly woven from threads of tradition, legacy, and a hint of quiet rebellion. Born into a respected noble family, she grew up surrounded by elegant homes, genteel gatherings, and an ingrained sense of duty that shaped her formative years. Even as a child, she was known for her thoughtful demeanor and a reserved charm that set her apart in a social sphere where confidence and affability are prized qualities. From a young age, Rose was taught the customs of aristocratic life: when to curtsy, what topics to discuss at the table, how to project grace and warmth without seeming contrived. Yet, beneath those carefully polished manners, she harbored private dreams that extended beyond the gilded confines of Britain's upper crust. Rose was blindsided by the sudden surge in gossip. She had never angled for the spotlight. Indeed, she had spent most of her life avoiding it, preferring the safety of a measured, dignified presence that placed her neither at the center of attention nor so distant that she became a subject of exclusion. To find herself cast as a focal point of tabloid speculation was jarring. At first, she attempted to ignore the murmurs. She believed that by refusing to dignify unsubstantiated rumors with a response, she could starve the story of oxygen. Yet the media's appetite seemed insatiable. Headlines speculated on her every move. If she stood too close to Prince William at a function, it fueled new whispers. If she avoided certain events altogether, tabloids read that as evidence she was hiding from controversy. Friends and advisors advised her on how to handle the situation. Some encouraged her to give a definitive statement denying all wrongdoing, while others insisted that silence was golden in the face of baseless innuendo. Rose struggled with the choice. She valued her privacy deeply, but also felt a moral impetus to defend herself, not just for her own reputation, but for the sake of her family and the people who had always supported her. Each day that passed without a formal statement only seemed to fuel the rumor mill. At the same time, every new rumor or tabloid headline left her feeling more invaded, as if her personal life, so carefully guarded, was being stripped bare for public entertainment. The stress took a toll on her well-being. She found it difficult to sleep, constantly anticipating the next wave of sensational headlines. Her daily routines, once simple and fulfilling, became tinged with apprehension. Even small outings, such as stepping out for tea or running an errand, could be photographed and then dissected. A life of quiet luxury and understated responsibilities mutated into a never-ending battle against a narrative she never signed up for. Adding to the pressure was the knowledge that her association with the royal family magnified every rumor, every small event, into an international news item. The monarchy, bound by centuries of precedent and the tradition of silent dignity, was unlikely to intervene publicly on her behalf, leaving her to navigate the minefield mostly on her own. Moreover, the rumors cast an unwelcome spotlight on her friendship with Kate, a bond that she had valued for its genuine warmth and mutual respect. Now, that friendship was pulled into the tabloid's swirl of speculation. Magazines fueled notions of rivalry, betrayal, or tension. In that environment, even an innocuous moment, like being seated at the same table during a charity fundraiser, could be twisted into an entire narrative about forced interactions or veiled hostility. Rose's relationship with Kate was suddenly tabloid fodder, dissected by outsiders who had never witnessed their genuine rapport behind closed doors. Meanwhile, Prince William faced his own share of public scrutiny. Yet the monarchy's time-honored strategy of silence prevailed. Those who empathized with Rose acknowledged the impossibility of her position. How do you fight an amorphous cloud of rumors without unwittingly giving them more substance? How do you retain your dignity when every attempt to set the record straight can be misconstrued as proof of guilt? At times, Rose considered issuing a firm denial through official channels. Yet she also feared that stepping forward to battle the tabloids directly would entrench her even further in the public eye, a place she never wanted to be. She made a series of measured choices designed to minimize attention. Invitations to glamorous events went unanswered. She reduced her presence on social platforms, restricting any glimpses the world might have of her day-to-day life. With each retreat, the tabloids pounced, interpreting her withdrawal as evidence she was avoiding Kate or being exiled by the royals. In truth, her decision to step back was more about self-preservation than anything else. She sought refuge among her closest circles. Yet the scandal refused to burn itself out. The story had all the elements the public relished: a supposed love triangle, a glamorous aristocrat, the future king and queen, and an official silence that left imaginative spaces for rumors to flourish. In some corners of social media, she was vilified. In others, she was defended as a victim of tabloid cruelty. Her life's narrative had splintered into countless versions, each retold by people who had never met her. Behind closed doors, she grappled with anxiety and a deep sense of frustration at how swiftly an unsubstantiated rumor could overshadow her years of dignified discretion. Eventually, the emotional strain reached such an intensity that she realized something had to change. She could not continue living as the unwitting protagonist in a public drama that showed no sign of ending. After much deliberation, she decided to take a decisive step, a formal announcement that she would step away from public life. The statement came through a single, carefully worded communication to a well-regarded British paper that had historically treated her with at least a modicum of fairness. She explained that she valued her privacy, that the speculation had taken a personal toll, and that she intended to focus on her family and personal pursuits away from the Klieg lights of paparazzi and endless gossip. The media reception was immediate and intense, as expected. Some outlets interpreted her announcement as tantamount to an admission that she had something to hide. Others claimed she was being bullied out of her rightful social circles by an unrelenting rumor mill. More sympathetic voices framed her departure as a courageous act of self-defense, a measured refusal to let public scrutiny consume her life. Rose, now resolute in her choice, refused to be drawn into further commentary. For her, stepping away was not about winning an argument or feeding a controversy. It was about preserving her well-being and reasserting a control she felt had been snatched from her. Over the following months, she began the practical work of retreating from the public arena. She scaled back her participation in aristocratic events, politely declining invitations that would have placed her in the direct line of tabloid attention. She also shifted her philanthropic energies towards smaller charities and organizations where she could contribute more discreetly. Instead of hosting lavish fundraisers or making high-profile appearances, she worked quietly in the background, offering her time and financial support without any fanfare. Her circle of close friends grew tighter, focused on those who had demonstrated unwavering loyalty and respect for her privacy. There were whispers, of course, that this departure could be temporary, that in time she might re-emerge. But Rose herself felt a profound relief in stepping off that public stage. Where once her days had been governed by social calendars and insidious rumors, she now woke to simpler rhythms: a morning walk, an afternoon spent reading or practicing photography, evenings dedicated to meaningful conversation with family and longtime confidants. Freed from the need to second-guess how each move might be perceived, she discovered a sense of peace that had long eluded her. Naturally, the tabloids were slow to let go. They spun stories about her reclusion, suggesting it was forced upon her by royal decree, or that she was harboring bitterness over alleged slights. But as time passed, and she consistently refused to re-engage, the appetite for new material about her dwindled. Other controversies arose to occupy the front pages, and the ceaseless churn of celebrity news found fresh subjects. Gradually, Rose's name became less frequent in the columns. Whenever it did surface, it was little more than a footnote, an echo of a once sensational storyline that people had largely moved on from. Meanwhile, within the royal family, the fallout took a subtler form. Kate carried on with her duties, sometimes facing questions about Rose that she politely sidestepped. Prince William, adhering to protocol, remained silent. In official settings, neither mention nor hint of the rumors was ever made. Palace aides presumably noted that the silent strategy seemed effective, and from the monarchy's perspective, the entire ordeal was best left to fade from collective memory. While no public statement was ever issued on behalf of the royals to clarify the true nature of Rose's connection to them, their unwavering silence was itself a statement that they did not deem the rumor worth acknowledging. Behind the scenes, there were quiet regrets. Kate was said to mourn the carefree closeness she had once shared with Rose, a friendship tested and strained by the swirl of unwanted attention. Those who knew the two women personally understood that whatever tensions had arisen, the root cause was never real enmity, but rather the media's compulsion to pit them against each other. But high-profile lives leave little room for clarifications, especially when clarifications might only perpetuate the gossip cycle. Thus, both women moved forward, carving separate paths in a world that had often thrust them together in ways they never orchestrated.
Royal Princess Anne. She has opened up the room and opened up her schedule to do something she rarely does.
Just minutes ago, Princess Anne stunned the world with a heartfelt and emotional farewell to Buckingham Palace. Her words left millions of royal watchers in shock as they realized that the royal family is not as invincible as they once thought. In a candid moment that broke royal protocol, Anne opened up about the impact the palace had on her life and how it shaped her journey. But what made this farewell so unexpected? Princess Anne, known for her stoic demeanor, revealed a side of herself that many thought didn't exist. It wasn't just a goodbye. It was a deep reflection on everything Buckingham Palace symbolized for her. Was this a final emotional release or a strategic move? Her words will change how you see the royal family forever. In her emotional goodbye, Princess Anne didn't just speak about her time at Buckingham Palace, but she revealed the silent, unseen struggles she faced while living under its roof. This wasn't the royal image everyone has come to know, perfect, polished, and untouched by pain. Anne's honesty about the weight of royal expectations, the pressure, and even her desire for personal freedom shocked the public. Was this the real Anne, or was she just tired of the expectations placed on her by the monarchy? She opened up about how, for years, the palace felt less like a home and more like a gilded cage. Her words suggested that perhaps it was time to move on, not just from the palace, but from the heavy burden of royal duty itself. As Anne spoke, there was a clear message for anyone listening. The royal family, despite its image of unity, is far from flawless. The emotions were raw, the reflections deep, and the words revealing. Princess Anne's farewell was not just about Buckingham Palace, it was about her own evolution as a member of the royal family. Her life, dictated by duty, was coming to a crossroads. Could this moment mark the beginning of a shift in how royals engage with the public and their duties? For the first time, Princess Anne was openly questioning the very system she's lived under for decades. What followed in her emotional speech left everyone questioning her future role within the royal family. Princess Anne didn't just say goodbye. She hinted at stepping back from the limelight. Was this a soft rebellion against the monarchy? Could the monarchy itself be headed for a major change, with Princess Anne leading the charge for a new era? Anne's words were not just a reflection, they were a potential warning to the royal family. Could this moment signal the beginning of the end for Buckingham Palace's hold over its most famous family? As the royal world processes this monumental announcement, one thing is clear. Princess Anne's emotional farewell has shaken the monarchy to its core. What do you think this means for the future of the royal family? Could this mark the beginning of a much-needed change, or is it simply the reflection of a tired royal under too much pressure? Stay tuned, because there's much more to come in this unfolding story. The secret behind Princess Anne's decision to leave Buckingham Palace will shock you. What made Princess Anne decide to bid farewell to Buckingham Palace? It wasn't just a desire for privacy or a simpler life. No, her decision goes much deeper. In her emotional farewell, Anne revealed an unexpected truth about her royal journey. For years, the public only saw a polished, strong princess, but behind the scenes, Anne's life was much more complicated. While the palace represents tradition, power, and duty, it also became a place of personal struggle. Her words about feeling trapped in the royal system resonated with many who believed she thrived in her role. But what made Anne truly decide to step away? For Anne, the constant spotlight and the pressure of royal duties became more than just a burden. It became a wall. She spoke candidly about her frustrations with the constraints of palace life. Unlike other royals who seemed to enjoy the luxury and glamour of their positions, Anne found herself seeking more than what Buckingham Palace could offer. But it wasn't just a case of wanting privacy or peace. Princess Anne was searching for something deeper. Her farewell was not just about leaving a building. It was about leaving behind an institution that, for decades, had dictated her life. The question remains, what does this mean for the future of the monarchy? Anne's personal reflections revealed a level of dissatisfaction that few expected. While many view her as the quintessential royal, always composed and duty-bound, Anne confessed that her journey through the royal family was far from ideal. She talked about the weight of tradition, and how, over time, it stifled her growth. It was as though she was constantly suffocated by the expectations of her title. Princess Anne's decision to leave Buckingham Palace wasn't just a personal choice. It was a bold statement against the very fabric of royal life. Is this a message to other royals who feel similarly constrained? Anne's exit might be the beginning of a royal awakening that could change everything. The media reaction has been explosive, with some seeing Anne's departure as a rebellion, while others speculate about her deeper motivations. Was Anne trying to reclaim her personal identity? Or was she sending a message about the pressures faced by all royals? Whatever the reason, Princess Anne's words have opened a Pandora's box of royal truths that the public wasn't ready for.